As a founder and CEO, I have made a lot of mistakes that I would love for you to avoid. Let's talk about it. By the way, I'm KJ Miller, founder, lecturer, and content creator. I love talking about all things business and pop culture. If you love that stuff, be sure to subscribe. Now let's get into it. Oftentimes when I'm doing a speaking engagement or a panel and we get to the Q&A portion, someone will ask, what mistakes have I made that I would avoid in the future if I were to start another company? Or what regrets do I have from the things that I've done in the past? Now, let me just say up front, I don't really regret any of the things that I've done or any of the mistakes that I've made, because you learn the most from failure. You certainly learn far more from your mistakes than you do from all the things that you got right. So I don't really have any regrets, but I do have things that I would do differently and that I do differently now than before. And so I would love to share some of these with you in the event that it helps you from avoiding some of these pitfalls so that you can make your own mistakes and learn from those. So we're going to be talking about my top 5 business mistakes to avoid. The number one mistake to avoid is picking the wrong co-founder. A lot of people don't realize that Mented Cosmetics, which is my brand that I recently sold and am currently still running, a lot of people think that that's the first time I've ever started a company. No, it was not. It was actually, I think, my 4th time at bat. And one of the mistakes I made with the 3 previous companies was not choosing the right co-founder. Now, if the co-founders of those companies are watching, please know this isn't shade. To me, picking someone who's the right co-founder to you does not mean that that person is perfect, and realizing that someone was not the right co-founder does not mean that person is bad. It simply means you weren't a good fit. It's my opinion that the only way to know if someone is going to be a good co-founder for you is to actually work with them. When it comes to Mented, my partner Amanda and I, we got to work together a good amount before we started our company because we went to business school together. We worked on school projects together. We also worked on school shows together. So we had these proof points that we knew how to work well together. I would say if you don't have the opportunity to work on something besides your business with your co-founder, then start working on the business with your co-founder, but give yourself at least a month, and I would say more like 2 to 3, where you're working together without any contracts, okay? Before either one of you is officially the CEO, before there's any agreement about who's getting what equity, before you bring on investors, before you have the cap table and the board and all of that, work on the idea, because the truth of the matter is, whatever the business idea is, there's work to be done before everything becomes formal. And if you can work with this person before things become formal, you can start to understand, is this someone I can actually work together? You can understand, oh, when we disagree, does this person resolve conflict like a grown-up, or do they blow up and throw a temper tantrum, or run away, walk away, and decide they don't want to talk to me? Both of which are very childish. You don't want a childish co-founder, right? Or maybe you'll learn that, hey, this person is not good at sticking to a deadline because we both agreed that we would have XYZ done by this date. I finished the thing I was supposed to have done. They didn't. And it happened again and again and again. They don't know how to keep a deadline. There are just things that you're going to want to learn before anything is signed on a dotted line to really understand, is this person someone I can work with? Okay. So avoid picking the wrong co-founder. Mistake number 2 is picking the wrong legal setup. Now, I'm not a lawyer, so your girl is not about to give legal advice. But what I will say is if you are trying to build a scalable and investable business, you more than likely want your legal formation documents to be set up by an actual person. Don't rely on just the LegalZooms or the Inc. files of the world. And by the way, I think those companies are great. I've used them for my media company. My media company, which is just me. I'm not expecting any investors to come in. This is where I get paid from my TikTok and hopefully eventually my YouTubes, my podcast, that I set up online very easily, very happily, and very affordably, I might add, because this company, my media company, is nothing like Minted Cosmetics. Minted Cosmetics had multiple investors. We scaled to multiple millions of dollars. We had vendors, suppliers, employees. I mean, it was a big business. Businesses like that, if that's the business you're trying to build, more likely than not, you're going to want to get a real IRL lawyer to help you with setting that business up. Now, yes, IRL lawyers are more expensive, but one tip is to call up a couple different firms with expertise in startup formation. Explain that you're a startup, explain that you're getting started and looking to bring on investors. A lot of these guys, if this is something that they do, like their firm does, they will take on startup clients at no cost and say that they'll delay the cost until you raise your first round, or they'll give you a discounted rate until you raise your first round. So it can't hurt to ask. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, in the words of Michael Scott. So it can't hurt to ask, and it can't hurt to spend a little bit more money up front if, again, the type of company you want to build is a scalable and potentially venture-backed company. The third mistake to avoid, and I definitely fell into this one, is calling you and your co-founders co-CEOs. I 100% understand why people do this. My co-founder and I did this for a time, but eventually you are going to have to decide who actually holds the head title. And in my experience, putting that decision off does not make it any easier. There are so few people, so few companies where co-CEOs remain co-CEOs. It almost never happens. And oftentimes it is a signal to investors that you and your co-founder are not willing or able to have difficult conversations. Okay. So rip the Band-Aid off and have a real conversation about who should sit in the CEO seat and who should sit in the, COO, CMO, Chief Product Officer, Chief Development Officer. It's a whole lot of C's, okay? And it doesn't necessarily mean that one person has to have more equity than the other person, but it does mean that eventually there is some place where the buck stops, okay? That decision almost always has to get made eventually. You may as well make it up front. The fourth mistake to avoid is neglecting team culture. Now, I will say, and hopefully there are some Minted employees who will back me up on this, I took culture very, very seriously. Particularly, I will say by the time we got to year 3 or 4, I really started laying down what the culture would be, what our cultural tenets were and pillars were, what that meant in terms of like the behaviors that we would exhibit and that we would shout out and that we would reward. I took that very, very seriously. But like I said, that started in year, call it 3. In those first 2 years, did we have, cultural pillars? Yes. Did we do anything to reinforce or emphasize them? No. And the truth is, your culture is the set of values you live by, and you can't live by them if nobody knows them and no one emphasizes them, no one reinforces them, no one is rewarded for living them. That's what it means to do the work of building and maintaining a culture, and you neglect it at your own peril. When it's just you and your co-founder, maybe it's not going to be so important because you guys are just heads down, focused on grinding it out. But as soon as someone who isn't a founder becomes a part of the company, you've really got to start thinking about what your culture is. What are those values you live by? How do you reinforce them? How do you reward them? How do you fire when someone's not living up to them? And just a quick freebie on that, one of the ways that we reinforced our cultural values at Minted was the first team meeting of every single month. We did team shout outs where every single person was shouting out another person on the team for living up to one of our values. So our values were be scrappy, be flexible, be generous, be vocal, be involved, be accountable, get it done. And yes, I still remember because we shouted it out every month. And really and truly, honestly, people were shouting each other out for that on a weekly basis. But we made time to do it at the first team meeting of every single month. So someone would say, I really want to shout out Sarah for being flexible and helping me with XYZ. I really want to shout out Amanda for being generous with her time and showing me how to do ABC. And when it is being reinforced, not just by me, not just me shouting people out, this was every single person on the team shouting out their teammates. That's how you start to reinforce the culture that you want. So that's a freebie. Take that and run with it. My fifth and final thing to avoid when it comes to your company is being afraid to walk away. Now, I know this might sound counterintuitive, but the truth of the matter is the business I started right before Minted, it was a hair business. And I stuck with that business so much longer than I should have, far past the point where I was unhappy, far past the point where it made any sense, brought me any joy. I stuck with it because I was scared to walk away from another thing, to fail at another thing. Scared to tell all of my friends and family, hey, this thing I had been working on, I'm not going to do it anymore because it's not a fit anymore, because I thought they would just hear failure, failure, failure. And had I not walked away, I wouldn't have been able to build Minted. And so I counsel founders all the time, don't be afraid to walk away. If you know in your heart, this is no longer right, it's okay to walk away. And what's going to be on the other side is something even better for you, something more meaningful, something more impactful, something more fulfilling. But you're never going to get it if you don't walk away from the things that aren't right. So that's it. I really hope it's helpful. I would love to know from you, what are some of the startup mistakes that you've made, some of the mistakes you've made as CEO or founder? Drop them in the comments. And if you like content like this, be sure to subscribe. I'll see you next time.